So, a couple years back, my buddies and I tried to stay in the Disney park after closing time. Our plan was to just take pictures. Nothing sinister or anything like that. We just wanted to be able to say we did it, you know? Basically, we snuck from bathroom to bathroom and corner to corner, and we managed to stay there until they closed the gates and the maintenance team got to work. We were really surprised we hadn't gotten caught. It was almost strange, considering how much talking up Disney security gets. Our hearts were beating like crazy as we sat there for a while, hiding behind a tombstone by the Haunted Mansion. We noticed that it was true. The Disney staff had signed their names on the back of every single one. Later, we finally got the courage to roam about, still being careful as to not be seen. It was really eerie. The occasional guard or maintenance worker would walk by, and we would just duck or hide in a corner. It worked. For all about a half hour. Of course, we couldn't keep this up for long, and yeah, they caught us. I mean, give us props for even attempting and succeeding, but that's not where the story ends. So, the first thing we said when they caught us was, "Are you going to take us down to the dungeon?" we said as we laughed. The security guard chuckled too, so the mood wasn't too dreary. He told us we weren't the first people to try to sneak in after hours, but he wanted to know how we did it. We explained the whole situation, and he actually laughed and said that wasn't a bad plan. He told us he had to take us down to the Disney jail to be further interrogated, which we thought was odd, but we figured from the beginning that if we had gotten caught, we'd let them take us down there. It might have been our plan all along. Maybe we wanted to see the Disney Catacombs more than we wanted to be in the park after hours. So he called for more maintenance workers to come and help him escort us. And we went on our way towards Toontown. Then they took us down this elevator right into hell. The first thing we noticed was how expensive looking the elevator was. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's hard to explain. It was like a stainless steel interior with mirrors all around. And the floor was this tacky red carpeting, but it looked expensive. There were only 2 buttons in this elevator, not counting the emergency ones, of course. One said up and the other said down. I had forgotten to mention that they never handcuffed us or zip-tied our hands. They just kind of walked beside us, expecting we'd follow. Not that we would have tried to make a run for it. I mean, these people seemed decent. Like, how were they supposed to know what was going to happen? The elevator stopped, and we started walking down this perfectly shining, bleach-smelling corridor. There were no doors on either side. It was just a plain, empty corridor. We walked for what seemed like an eternity, and no one was talking any longer. It was just me, my friends, the security guard, and the 2 other maintenance workers. Finally, we reached a heavy metal door that had a security code and a card reader. One worker put his card in, the other typed a code on the keypad. I watched the code he typed in, 121566. I only remember it because I found out later what its significance was, and it makes me laugh, looking back. Strange. It's strange that I could laugh looking back at this. They led me and my friends into another corridor. This one had doors down the hallways. Each door had a little plexiglass square, about a 10 by 10 inch window at the top right corner. Looks sort of like a psych ward, to be honest. Not so much like a jail. He led us down to room 1901, and inside was a single desk with, surprisingly, 3 chairs for me and each of my friends. Then they left us in there alone, closing the door on the way out. We sat in the chairs like obedient little children and waited for them to return, but they never did. 2 hours went by and no one came back for us. My buddy Tim went to the door and surprisingly, it was unlocked. He didn't open it though. He was worried there'd be a guard on the outside and that they'd think we're escaping, and we weren't really looking for any more trouble. So about 25 more minutes went by, and We got restless and finally decided to leave the room. The hallway was empty like before. No signs of people. Nothing. We started calling out, "Hello? Is anybody there?" No one answered our calls. We noticed surveillance cameras were placed above every door, and we got to wondering if there was any living soul in this place at all. We should have left right then and there, but then again, whoever does the right thing in these kinds of situations? Every door looked the same, and each one had a specific number above it. They weren't in any order like, say, rooms 1 to 10. They were scattered numbers. For example, our room had been 1901, but the door next to it was 1205. We got to thinking and finally assumed they were just randomly chosen. We walked up that hallway and had no idea where we were going, or what we were hoping to find, or even if it mattered. My other buddy, Guy, decided we should just leave. He said that if they really wanted us here, they would have come back. And maybe it was just a scare tactic. Maybe they just wanted to trick us into thinking we were being arrested and they were waiting outside for us to laugh. I felt weary of the whole situation, and Tim was just quiet the whole time, nodding his head here and there. He was more interested in looking into the little doors 10 by 10 inch windows. That wasn't a good idea. I tried to tell him, but of course, no one listens to reason when they are freaked out, and we were definitely freaked out at this point. The camera above the doors were capable of motion detection and followed us as we were wandering down the hall in the desolate corridor. A little red light at the bottom of the lens blinking each second. No noise filled the air. All we heard was our own breathing. Then it happened. We had reached the end of the hallway. Unfortunately, the door at the end had another PIN code reader, and I tried the PIN from before, the one I saw the men type in, but it was invalid. At that moment, the lights of the hallway shut off, and we heard the doors. God damn it, I can still hear them to this day. The doors opened, all lining up along the corridor. They made a subtle creak, and then a boom as they hit the wall beside them with force. As I said, after I entered the invalid code to the keypad, the lights shut off and the doors open, except for the door with keypad, obviously. We also had noticed that as the doors opened, each doorway had a little bit of light seeping from it as they opened. We stood there, stunned for a good 5 minutes, not knowing what to do. We figured we tripped some alarm and that this was just a protocol, a standard drill in case of an attempted escape. What were we supposed to think? So we turned the other direction away from the locked door. A sense of panic hit all three of us for some reason, and we got the urge to run. No one agreed to running. It was just like we all knew we had to. At the same time, some sort of instinct, like a baby gazelle knowing when to run from a lion. We were in a lion's den, all right. It wasn't until about the 10th door we passed that we began to look into the doorways. There, standing in the doorways, were people in costume. We were running past Donald, Mickey, Goofy, and Pluto, and all different kinds of Disney characters. It was insane, and we screamed at the top of our lungs. I know they say never look behind you as you run, but I did. They were leaving their rooms and following us. Not running, just casually walking towards us. I think that it was what made it that much more terrifying. Almost like they knew we had nowhere to go. Now, I don't know if it was all in my head, just from sheer panic or in fear of the moment, but I swear, I could hear my mother's life. I heard It's a Small World playing over an intercom. Now, I have a fear of dolls, and the ride always gave me the creeps my whole life. Now I could see them, the little robotic dolls standing in the doorways as we passed. Still following were the costume characters. The dolls weren't chasing us, thank God. I would have died from a heart attack if I had seen any of those little dolls following suit, but they didn't. It didn't make the situation any better, though. I mean, how many times have you been followed by a group of costumed individuals seemingly out to eat you alive? At least that's what I told myself to keep myself moving. Stopping meant being devoured by Donald Duck. I don't know about you, but I don't want to go out like that. Tim was crying, Guy was swearing, sweating, and breathing heavily. And I just kept turning my head to see if they were still following us. And of course, they were. I'm not sure how many doors we had passed at this point, or if there was really any difference in the characters at each door. But I knew that this hallway had to end at some point, and we were getting the hell out of this place pronto. Easier said than done. I looked back after another minute or two of running and noticed there was nothing behind us anymore that we could at least see. I heard footsteps, but figured we had gotten so far already and they were just still walking casually, like before. The hallway was still going on for what seemed like forever, and Guy needed to stop, or he was going to faint from exhaustion. The door beside us was open with the light on, but nothing inside. We decided we would hide in there till we caught our breath and we could continue onwards.